For me, it was a super huge headache.
We are live.
We are okay. So we are alive and present on planet Earth. So thank you everyone for joining us on this beautiful live event. It's great to have you. And today I want to continue the topic that we had like 2 weeks ago, I believe, of like, how do you know that you're actually ascending or that you're on the ascension path? And how can we navigate this new way of seeing things and experiencing things? Like, what are the signs? And later on, I want to discuss a phase of it. Since we are going through the awakening process, it's basically a trigger to push you to the next level of your understanding of how to experience life and how to sense things, how to receive more information. And it can be an overload and an energetic and emotional overload when we're like exposed to so many things and we are able to sense all these things to a much deeper level, and we absorb all that into ourselves. And like, how can we learn to navigate this new way of experiencing life? I think that should be like later on what we're going to address. But beforehand, we will talk about like what is happening energetically. Like, I've been experiencing also some very strong fatigue, disorientation, heart palpitations, sleep disorders in the past week or so. Yeah, excuse me. Also, we just had a full moon. And what did you say that like Pluto is returning in Aquarius or something?
Exactly. The 21st is when that's due to happen, though. There are trigger moments, good trigger activation, rather is the right word, moments happening on every day this month that has a 7 in it, which I think is kind of cool because we're in the year 7 if you numerologically add up the numbers 2023. So it's like all of the 7s are becoming like, so you're still feeling the 7 that we just got through. The 7 was also when we had our full moon. That's why it was so much more activating, and dormant DNA was coming out of dormancy and like a rush. And so a lot of people came online. Just the past couple of days, there's a lot of brand new people.
Okay, so now I should say something too, Greg.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't sure. I was answering your question. I have more to say if you'd like me to share more.
Okay, yeah, like we could go deeper into this whole stuff, like what is happening energetically. You also said that we are experiencing, I wouldn't say like a solar storm, but you said last time that like the sun is bombarding us with some
Yes.
intense energies right now, and also like NASA gave out some kind of warning that Wi-Fi and all these types of electric disturbances may happen, and like that's something that we can look forward to.
Yeah.
And of course, we're sensing it in our bodies too, since we're also electric-based beings. Our physical body is, and we're also deeply affected by it. I'm also seeing it in animals too.
Yeah, the ascension symptoms in animals has been something that has been worrying a lot of people. Just so if you have that experience happening with you, everybody's that I've talked to that have reported about this, using crystals just to kind of trace the chakra spots down the line of your animal will help their ascension symptoms. There's a lot of healing things that we can do. Just think about the list of ascension symptoms that we're having. Like, there's so many things happening. Like Guardian mentioned, the fatigue, the weird sleeping or lack thereof, even though your body's exhausted, weird appetite, loss of appetite, but heart palpitations. The jaw thing's a new one. A lot of people are saying all of a sudden they're having, they call it TMJ, as a result of like having you grinding your teeth at night, though there's not any evidence of them grinding their teeth. I'm noticing the jaw thing too. Buzzing, fuzzy, dizzy, tickling on the body, bouts of anxiety that's bursting away, disorientation, feeling almost drugged because of the lightness of the energy as you move through it. There's a list I have here that you don't mind if I quickly go through the rest of it. It's almost done.
Okay, please do.
Thank you. The ringing in the ears is one of the most common ones that people can resonate with at first. That was the first ascension symptom I realized was ascension symptom. Sensing the other energies more. And sensing can mean a variety of different things, either seeing light orbs, seeing like a light shadow silhouette of a being, but not really seeing the person within. also just feeling them near to you. Another fun one that's happening, people are feeling touch, lots of touch. And so that kind of thing's happening. Vibration of your body, and also noticing unpleasant areas in places that there's a bend, just like Thoth explained in the Emerald Tablets. The things that when we're in our art, that's where the light lives, right? And then the bends, the kind of places is where the shadow kind of lurks and hangs out. And we're noticing that what we're doing, we're not actually letting things move through us. What's really occurring is we're raising our vibration away from the vibration of these densities. And so when we're doing that, we're noticing a lot of people are noticing that these densities are hanging out in their elbows, their knees, their hips. These
in the angles.
Yes. And that's where the disturbance or the discomfort's happening for a lot of people. Knowing that, now you have a solution. Put the light there. Watch the light coming into your body from God and guide it to those spots. And when you do that, it opens that space up. I'm sorry, tooth, the V pain on the forehead, that forehead space, not pain, but discomfort or pressure, always in the shape of a V right now. Those are like that's like the pyramid that's activating. And like, there's the last two things that are really important to mention. There's quite a long list, but purging, we're all going through some type of a purging, whether we're noticing frequent bathroom trips, weird acne, your body's releasing stuff, a lot of weird sweat that doesn't feel like actual sweat. That's things that your body's no longer in harmony with, and that's moving out. And the other release of it is the crying, either laughing or crying just all of a sudden. Often you can be crying in joy, though that release is a big deal. Knowing all of these things, think about your animals are also doing this too, right? You know, but they're scared about it because they really don't have a little less idea what's going on, you know. So guiding them with your energy while you're healing yourself, you're using your crystals on yourself. Take a moment and do it with your animal too.
Yeah, great. I haven't tried it, but although I noticed like the dogs are more agitated and they have like conflicts between each other for some reason. They haven't done that before, so that's very odd.
They're doing the lashing out part. I didn't say that part of the symptoms.
They get like so upset over something and they start arguing, and yeah, like I haven't seen them react this way. It's very strange. And also we had a great question in the chat box. Like, does it really matter in like which side or which ear do you have the ringing? And before you answer that, like I don't know, like I've heard other people like associate it with the type of meaning, like what it is, if you hear it in the right or the left. But like some people know they get like it's like can be very disruptive to have that buzz in the ear, like in the background, or just have that ringing and it just doesn't want to stop. And you can like rebalance it out because like there is an attunement or an upgrade happening energetically to your body, and that's how your body reacts. Like our organ that senses sound and subtle vibrations is our ears, and it's able to sense some of it. So like if that is happening, like you can like center yourself, do something similar that you have recommended for your elbows or the angular parts of your body, or do some grounding, or ask to release that something that is happening with you that is causing that unnatural or that unpleasant side effect. Because yeah, for some people it can be very unpleasant too. Like I haven't really had very severe ones, but whenever it happens, I always like balance myself out and like release all the built up stuff that is like causing that side effect in my physical body, because it can be very disruptive, especially if it's happening during the nighttime when you're trying to sleep.
Right. That's the most annoying part about all this, I would say, is that typically the vast majority of these upgrades occur in the sleep time window, often right before sleep, like you're almost asleep, that window when you're kind of in between world space. That's when most of the stuff happens. So it's annoying that it's so disruptive to our sleep. To answer the question, I agree with you that it's a subjective thing. Everybody gets information through spirit in a way that you can understand it. Like the example of Jesus speaking about carpentry to the carpenters and fishing to the fishermen, you know, that kind of an idea. The same thing happens when spirit is energetically interacting with you or speaking through you, is that those signs that you get are signs that you understand what they mean, you know. So trust your own instinct. Your intuition is telling you what it means. And so for me, the left side, and some people have a different opinion, but for me, the left side means the divine feminine side. She said that she gets it. I think it was, I remember who it was that said it. And so when I'm having it on that particular side, I just assume that I'm getting more upgrades on that side. Mandolin made an interesting point that I also do, is tuning into it like a course before performance. So like, listen to it. I started to do that a little while ago, and I felt, not all of them, I think that we get different earrings for different reasons. And before I say anything else, my first instinct when I get my ear structure ring, before I knew what was going on, even before I knew it was an ascension symptom, my automatic response was to hold my hands up in receiving, just like, thank you, you know, accepting, giving consent to accept this thing. And that does seem to kind of like calm it a little bit too. And like Mandolin said, when you tune into it, some of them are actually more like voicemails that have gone left unheard. And so when I tune into a specific one, similar to that movie Lucy, when she like sees all the signals and you can do that. I've done that. You see, if you let yourself visualize the strings, they look like the strands of, you know, like a beautiful harp or something. Tune into one of those frequencies and you'll get it. I have had experiences where then I'll get a download. Like there's something there that I needed to accept before it could come in. So, and the variety of ear ringing things are happening, not just the ear ringing, but then the muffled underwater hearing. Usually it's like opposite. It's like this, or there's like, you can tell your ear is getting, it's like that leading up, it's gonna ring kind of feeling, but it doesn't actually do it. That's another, I think that one is actually when we're moving into a higher frequency and we're connecting in with the higher self that we're merging with at that time, like perceiving where our energetic body majority is at, is kind of what it feels like. So there's a couple of different methods. So I hope that I answered that question all right.
I think so, yes, thank you. And also Mandolin shared that it's usually a communication coming through. Really important is loud and high pitched. Yeah. And I also sense that like when maybe some being or someone wants to communicate with you and some aspect of themselves, oh, it's 22 around here, like comes near to you or into your vicinity, and like your body can react in that way, that it's like sensing that high vibrational energy. And I also like wanted to touch upon that whole notion that they like it's like you get like a notification that there's a message there. It's like it's something similar to that too. Like that can happen also during sleep hours when you have like a very vague dream about something, or like maybe an event, a fragment like triggers something in you, that those are usually like invitations or like notifications to you that there is more there, but do you want to engage with that information or you don't want to engage? Right. And basically your higher self or your guides are just letting you know that, I don't know, like, okay, like we're here and this is available to you if you want to go in that direction. And most of us don't want to go in that direction, just want to go to sleep. Yeah.
You can swipe the notification away. You can. Yeah. Just like, you know, you can peek in and say, oh, it's Archangel Michael. I'm busy right now.
Yeah. Put your cell phone airplane mode or something.
Right. And that's something else too. We just rounded a corner energetically. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut you off?
No. Okay. I was just coughing.
Okay. We just rounded a corner energetically where it feels like it is very truly, we are in a new space now, like just over the past couple of days. And in this place, what I keep getting is, it's kind of funny because this is a term that we use in America for if you're old enough to have sex with somebody, though it's the term I'm getting is, it's the age of consent. We are in the age of consent right now. The age of consent means that everyone is realizing that for the longest time, they had blanketly consented to everything and just agreed to the things in their life and their experience that aren't actually something they have to have there. And the agreement caused its presence. And now all of a sudden, like in mass, like across the board, a lot of people all over the planet are all of a sudden removing their consent completely. And because of that, then you get to pick what you consent to as it comes. So then you're more aware of these interactions, these spiritual interactions, these and energetic and beings and stuff. You're more aware of it because now they have to ask for consent before it happens. Another way to describe the age of consent is the age of light, the age of love. It's the same thing. Like truth and clarity is the same thing as love, and so it's just so exciting that we're here now. And as a result, we're getting more and more people coming online. One of the things that most people are having right now, by the way, that's causing alarm, that Guardian and I have actually talked about previously, is when you're almost asleep, seeing all of these sets of eyes show up in your perception, and a lot of times, because these beings are from other planetary spaces, they may have the appearance of unkind eyes, though they're not. It's just simply they look kind of monstrous in some ways by our standards of this is what a human looks like. Knowing that, please be aware that that's basically another form of getting phone calls, the notifications that are coming in. You can swipe those away. They're reaching out to connect with you. They want to talk to you.
You're like, hey, like we're here. Like, do you want to talk or do something? If not, then they're going to leave.
Right. And notice that too, that it'll flip through several sets of eyes, because it's when you respond as with any kind of lack of consent, okay, they're gone. They're not going to keep calling you, and so please be aware of that. That seems to be one of, I've been doing these one-on-ones for a little bit with these newer individuals, and most of them that's like the fear, that particular thing that's happening. And it feels like that's all of a sudden happening to everybody on the planet. I don't know. That's what it feels like in my subjective little world. So just to be aware of that.
Oh, we could go into that a bit later too.
Okay.
But like how to filter that out if you want to.
Yeah.
Okay. So, or maybe we could address it quickly right now too. Yeah, like regarding the unkind eyes or something similar to that. It's like, hey, I always think about it that many of these beings like evolved in a different environment, and also they're on a different plane of existence, so they don't think, feel, and function as we do. And like for most of us, like that's kind of the turn-off factor that can be scary, is that we're always having this energetic exchange between us, like human to human or animal or plant, and we're used to that. And when there's something, a foreign energy coming into that interaction, and you get back something other than what you're used to, then that can be freaky for people. Yeah. And it also took me quite a few years to like navigate that properly. Right. Because it can be very freaky because it usually happens during the night, like when everyone is silent and you're also calming down. You have stopped all the running around during your day, and you're calming down, your mind is becoming clearer, and you're starting to go to sleep. And now it's a wonderful time to connect with you because you're more open. That's why it happens usually within that time frame. Also during like 3 a.m.
Yes.
Middle of the night, because that's when our pineal gland is producing a lot of DMT, like it's naturally, our brain can produce that psychedelic drug thing, which opens us up even more to other realms and possibilities. And that's when they come to connect with you, because then this type of connection is much easier than during the day when you're running around and working or stuff like that. Although it can happen then too, like if that's more advanced a bit.
It depends on where your mindset is too, right? Like Absolutely. What's strange about that, it doesn't matter if you're still awake. I'm a late person in the wintertime. Like I'll stay up till 3 or later, and it'll happen at 3 a.m., usually 3:33 for me. no matter if I'm still awake from yesterday. So I just wanted to add to that. Go. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, it's fine. And yeah, like regarding the unpleasant eyes again, like there's different type of energy coming into our personal space. Like it feels like they come into your bedroom or where you sleep or rest, and it can be feel intrusive to a sense, but most of the time they're not even actually there. So they're just, as you said, like they're just ringing on the phone or sending you a notification to connect with them.
Right.
And like that works both ways. If you think of them, then that sends pretty much the same signal to them that you want to connect. So if you're like not very aware consciously, like where your thoughts are or how you function, then just by thinking of them in a specific way can trigger that interaction, because that's almost like calling them on the phone and ringing them like, hey, like come over to my place.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, like that can happen also, especially during those hours as well.
Yeah.
And that's also what I had to learn to navigate by like putting up boundaries and setting filters that what do I want to experience and what I don't want to experience. Because just in the beginning, just as you said, we're in a phase, or at least we were in a phase on planet Earth collectively, when we were just going about our day and our lives without actually like giving a deeper thought to what do we agree to participating in and what we don't prefer to have in our lives. We're just going with the flow and like doing what everyone else is doing. And that way, like subconsciously, you agree to many different contacts and interactions. And most of them, maybe it's something that you don't want to have in your life. And now all these things that you don't prefer, you have granted them access previously into your life, you have let them into your life, and right now they're pushing you, they're causing this uncomfortable situations and feelings to come up in you, to push you to finally say no, like, okay, like I had enough of this crap and no more, like I'm retracting my consent, I'm removing my energy from that contract or relationship or whatever type of agreement, and I want to move forward in a different direction. So up until now, I have experienced what I don't like. So now I have more clarity and I know what I want to experience. And now you can consciously, proactively move forward in that direction.
Exactly. And to add to that, knowing that when you're in that space, usually a lot of times what our response is that fear. Like, what do we do first thing? We pull our feet into the blanket, like that kind of experience. And knowing that, and if we choose to instead, when we, you're going to have our impulsive fear. That's regular, that's normal, right? And then go to that place of love, give yourself that hug of love and kind of like surround yourself with it. I'm adding that because we'll have these experiences, and though we logically understand what's happening and stuff and moving away from it, now it's stopped, there's still a lot of times an echo of fear that keeps us awake, and so the solution is to send that orb of love, pulling that light down from God and sending that, creating that bubble is what I do. I breathe that white light turning into a bubble and then send it out as love. And that really helps a lot, so just thought I would add that too.
Yeah, like we could slowly move forward in the part when we talk about expanding our senses and like how that works. Because like this, yes, please do.
Quickly, I've been watching the comments a little bit. There's a couple of people talking about just the symptoms that we've had and stuff. And just to reassure everybody, most of us were called crazy at some point, and like by doctors specifically, I've been called a hypochondriac, and in fact, I think they even put a note in my file that I was a drug seeker, even though I never fill the prescriptions they write to me. There was a period of time that I was concerned. I mean, like heart palpitations, like that's a heart attack or something, there's this, you want to maintain your health. And so when we go in, a lot of times it's a validating thing is what I'm trying to bring up, is that now that you're fine. In fact, you're the best physical health that you've been in a long time, probably. That's what most of us have the report back of. And that these things that we're going through are literally us just coming online. We have this dormant DNA that's being activated and coming out of dormancy. And as a result, we're also having sensation that we're not familiar with. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 again. Thank you.
Yeah, like basically these crazy symptoms that we have is like an effect of us actually changing, not just on an etheric level, but also physically. So as we're evolving and becoming more high vibrationals, our bodies need to adapt to that new system of how you function. And it needs to like break down old cells. As you said, like it needs to clean itself of everything that is not representative of that high vibrational self.
Right.
So that's when, yeah, like you said, that sweating or like the urge to go more often to the bathroom, your body's like purging stuff, it's pushing it out of the system so it can become lighter. And yeah, like it's a lengthy and difficult process, especially for us like older ones. Like the kids are, they came in already with those upgrades, and we like have to do all the busy stuff along the way, like in our lifetimes. We are changing and evolving in a single lifetime. And I think like for most of us, it's like also physically visible too. Like I also shifted physically in the past 3 or 4 years. And also like I sense a difference in how my body functions differently. Like it reacts different to food. I process food differently. It's yeah, it's very odd. I function very differently from 3 years ago.
And that's happening to everybody, you know, like there's this story. I've been talking to doctors just because it's kind of fun to go back and find out what's, according to them, all of a sudden throughout our country, all of a sudden everybody's allergic to meat. You know, that's they're calling it an allergy, you know, and what is an allergy? It's an abnormal reaction to a substance, you know, and so for us, we are noticing that these substances, these things that we've typically put into our body or let ourselves interact with energetically, consuming through the mind as well. What are you watching? What are you consuming in that way? All of these things are shifting. And as they shift, we have an allergic reaction to that substance, you know, and so all of a sudden everyone's allergic to meat. Not all of a sudden, we've been slowly moving away from that paradigm for a while, noticing that we're eating the fear of that animal and what kind of impact it has on our body, you know, and so it's been really fun to learn how to listen to my body. Do you mind if I add a tip here? I've just kind of hijacked you again, I think. Is that so when we're learning to listen to our body, at first it's a like we're starting out this whole new vocabulary, because for the longest time we've been taught to do certain things and instead of listening to our bodies. For instance, taking an antacid rather than not eating that thing that caused such severe heartburn before, you know, and things like that, those band-aids, we're learning instead to say, oh, my body, you don't want that. Okay. And one of the easiest ways to do it, and you're just starting out, you know, everybody, eventually your body will start to communicate with you differently though. So you're going to eat something. Maybe it's something that you're used to eating. And then once you, a lot of times what people will do is they'll go through the whole steps and then they're eating the food and they're like, oh, now I realize that. So what you can do by asking your body two different things, you can either stand before it and ask if it wants it. It will lean toward it. You in a standing position, your body will lean toward the thing. If it wants it, lean away if it doesn't. The other thing that I'll do is I'll actually hold the thing and think about what it's like to eat it. And even though I enjoy it normally, I don't always, you know, and things are moving away into a new diet. And so I'll hold it and be like, and think about what it's like to be eating it. And often my body will feel sick, like, oh, you know, like almost as if it's something that you've eaten over way too many times, kind of sick. So just that's some ways that you can learn to slowly listen to your body. And following these cravings. We don't have to understand why we want to drink 2 gallons of water in a day. Your body wants that, you know, and to do that though, with safety, a lot of people do have like blood sugar related stuff, you know, keeping that in mind. A lot of us are going through these weird fasting periods of just like all of a sudden not eating, you know, and it's not on purpose. It's just, you no longer have an appetite for a while. And then there are people that are like what I'm doing right now. All of a sudden, like my body's blooming up, like I'm eating a lot more than normal. And it's, the ascension experience is a roller coaster of weight, I've noticed, so.
Yeah, like there are different phases of it, like just as with everything has its like yin and yang aspect to it, the more active and the more passive parts. Like in some phases we're like very active and like changing very rapidly, and then comes like a little downtime when it's more like relaxed, like reflecting on what we have done so far, which is basically preparing us for the next round of changes.
Yep. It's the respite, right?
Yeah. Calm before the next storm.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, like we should go into the next phase of which is like how to navigate the whole process of the awakening, and from the perspective of like, okay, we gained a different understanding and perspective of all things. Your mind has opened up. You see all things from a different perspective, and at the same time, you have received also an energetic upgrade, which means that you're able to expand your senses. And now that you're able to see things that you haven't been able to see before, also to sense things, different energies. And for example, the seeing stuff is like not necessarily like seeing auras, like I don't do that really, but in a sense that it can work in a way that, for example, you start to see connections that were like evading you previously, like some so-called obvious stuff to you right now, but in the past it was in front of your eyes. You just couldn't like put A and B together and like to form that whole picture. But all of a sudden you have this different perspective on very mundane stuff, or like very obvious stuff that is like part of your life and our culture and all that. And all of a sudden you see everything from a different light, and you're like able to put together the whole picture of like what has been happening, like what is happening and why is it happening. And like it's so crazy when you do that, that everyone around you is just like have absolutely zero clue what you're talking about. And to you it's like so obvious, like so in your face of what is happening and
Yeah.
why things work the way they work, and everyone around you is clueless. Like that's something also very difficult to navigate when you're surrounded by such people. But hey, like that's what we signed up for.
It feels like overnight you wake up and you're the most brilliant person on the planet, though you don't feel that smart. It's like, what? How did everybody get so stupid all of a sudden?
How don't they see it? That's in front of them.
Yeah. And you're right. It's like, you don't know that you know something till you know it. And it sounds like such a conundrum, though it's true. When this information comes to us and it just fits into place, and you realize why over the past however many months or years or whatever that you've been sloughing off the things in your life that used to be important to you, and they now present a barrier. And you, like, the way that we work, the way that everything, slowly at a little bit at a time. And when you look back at this place that you're talking about now, you see that all those things were so important for you to remove in order for you to vibrate at this frequency, and then to be able to step into the knowing of the thing that you already had the knowledge of. It's already in your body's crystals.
Yeah, like and also like most of the knowledge and information that we carry right now is like it has already been there. So basically we're not really learning new stuff.
Exactly.
Have these activations of like, I all of a sudden know how this works for some reason.
Yeah.
And maybe in other lifetimes it would have took you God knows how much to learn it or to prepare for that. And all of a sudden I just know how to fly a helicopter or something.
Yeah, like Neo.
Like the Matrix. Yeah, like because we came in prepared for many different types of activities and so-called missions. And of course, you can take all that information with you in a conscious way. But at like specific points in our journey, we receive like a trigger that like causes this chain reaction of activations. And all of a sudden you just uncover something that you're very good at, but never did before. Like,
Yeah.
that's really crazy stuff.
You're already a master at it your first time trying it.
Yeah, like I never knew that I was a hermetic teacher or master in the past lifetime. All of a sudden, I just start to understand those crazy philosophical conundrums.
Right. And it all makes sense. You know, the one thing that about those types of things, a lot of us will go lately are in astral while in sleep state, in our own consciousness, being that like, so I go as Pamela, when before we were more accustomed to going as our higher self, basically, you know. And what's interesting about that is that what will happen for me is I'll get all these, oh yeah, of course, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then when I'm back in my physical form, it's like, what did I want to tell everybody? You know, and I'm bringing it back with me. It's just, and it's already there. It's just out of reach because it isn't needed right now. When it's needed, it will come, it brings itself up in these kind of conversations. And so, oh no, the law won. Mandolin and I have been talking about these. So she had a crow and a hawk fighting, and crow is like the magician. He's crow is symbol of law, and hawk is the symbol of messenger. So I thought that was kind of poignant that we were talking about at the time when she brought that up. Sorry.
So yeah, like where were we? Like yeah, like regarding the whole senses stuff is like, okay, like we talked about like these cognitive senses of like you seeing connections and receiving downloads and information which normally other people don't receive. Like many people call these like downloads or like spontaneous. You get access to information just by requesting it, like unconsciously. And for me, for example, in the past few years, since I started to channel also verbally and to communicate with my guides more deeply, like I developed this interesting relationship that during my day, if I think about a topic, they just dump a lot of information regarding that in my mind during my day, which is very interesting. But yeah, like it can function through many different ways. Just as we said, that all of a sudden you see connections, all of a sudden you gain insight to something that was hidden to you or is hidden to many other people. And that can happen also in this, like this is the clear cognizance part, as people call it. I think this is the term that is like most commonly used for it in the spiritual community. And the clear sentient one, which all of us are, is when you actually feel these differences, when you're like, your higher self is communicating with you through feelings. For example, like depending on like in which situation you are, maybe if you're watching something or you're interacting with a specific person, and that how that situation makes you feel at that time is basically your higher self communicating with you and sending you a message of this being like okay or not okay, or like be careful or don't go there and stuff like that. And like that's like the very beginning phases of it. And yeah, like that skill can like evolve and become far more refined and like merge with a clear cognizance one, so you can gain an even deeper insight into things, especially when you're like communicating with people. You can like get a bunch of information from them just by having a very simple and basic interaction with them. Like most people wouldn't gain those insights. Like we would make excellent psychiatrists or counselors.
We are excellent counselors.
We just don't have a degree in it.
Right. Unlicensed.
Yeah, we're unlicensed empaths from Star Trek or whatever.
Right. The other point of that too, or a way to kind of jog that ability that guardians, I keep calling you garden lately. That's funny.
Yeah, we started our gardening season. You can see our beautiful seedlings on the side.
Perhaps that's why. A way that you can like hone that ability, that skill that I found useful to guide people in the beginning is that if you feel inspired or driven to a certain time period, you know, a lot of people are drawn to like ancient Egypt, for instance, you know, ancient Arcadia, so when it's a Greek god period and stuff like that, whatever. Let yourself do a search, you know, in a YouTube or something like that, and just click on some of the videos. You'll find that you're not actually going to be consuming most of the content of that video. it's like a portal or something. Like you start, and when certain things, symbols come up, or even information that's maybe skewed or incorrect, you'll notice yourself correcting them. You know the truth of that thing. And so you kind of fill in the blank, or you edit off what they had added, and what I'll do is I'll start to watch something like that, and I'll watch only like the first 1% of it, and I'm someplace else. According to everybody around me, I've watched the whole video because I've been sitting there, though I'm actually venturing down and getting more downloads and understanding and memories. We are remembering, we are recollecting ourselves, we're recollecting, and so there's this coming online experience that we're all having, and whatever you can do to jog that, if you feel comfortable, then it would assist you in this. You already are powerful, you already are capable. It's just we don't remember it. And we're working on that memory right now.
Yeah. And yeah, like just as I said previously, like we have all this information coded within us, and we came in with it already. And we just need all these triggers along the way to activate us, these rememberings. So yeah, like just as you said, if you're attracted to like a specific culture or time period, like you don't have to do like a super deep research on it, just like expose yourself to some of it, like see what triggers you, like see what makes sense or doesn't, and like trust the process that the parts of it that are important to you will come up, and they can like all that information can unfold in this lifetime as well. Like in my case, I'm very connected to ancient Egypt, and in my childhood, like I grew up in I was born in 89, so we didn't have internet and all that. So we didn't really have as much access to information as we have right now. But even as a little kid, I was like very attracted to ancient Egypt for some reason. And I like know all the stories of the gods and goddesses and their culture. And I was like copying hieroglyphs from textbooks and like duct taping together different papers because they weren't large enough. And with ink, I was like copying them from a book for some reason. Like what 4 or 5-year-old does that stuff?
Right.
And yeah, like of course that kind of went away when I entered school, as usually does with everyone. But yeah, like later on when I had my awakening, I again started to become very interested in. I wouldn't say in the beginning I was not interested in it, but I had a QHHT past life regression, and after like I don't know, like 20 or so years, it came up again, and I was like, wow, like I completely forgot about this, that back in my early life, like this was important to me. And after that, I gained a completely different level of understanding of it, like why it was so important for me, because I actually had many, many different lifetimes in that period, basically. And I already knew all that stuff. So, and basically what came up for me that I kind of did the same thing that I do right now, but just in a different way, because 5,000 years ago, you didn't have these possibilities.
Right.
But basically, throughout history, I kind of did the same stuff, just in under different conditions and different cultures, basically. Like, that's kind of what came through for me.
Right. Yeah, same here. I had a lot of, and it wasn't until we explored that, like, I one of my past life memories was a life that I chose not to take. I was going to go to that life when I died in this life, and instead I chose to stay. And what I knew about what was going to happen in that lifetime, later on I did research and I was able to see it. It was really cool. And I wanted to add something else funny. I see you talking about this too in Mandolin. My daughter doesn't believe me that they didn't have internet. That internet was invented or that came online since I've been alive. She can't believe it. Like the possibility of there not being internet at some point is like beyond comprehension. I think that's so funny.
Yeah, like we live through so much just in this brief period, just these few decades that we're here. Like so many things have changed and evolved, and like this whole process of evolution is accelerating even more. which is very crazy, but also very exciting. And yeah, like this is what we're going through right now.
Right. And as we do, to just add to what you were saying, as we do walk through the steps, the stepping stones of these past life memories, I have been guided over many times to not savor those things. I'm a history buff. I always have been. When I was introduced into school at 14, I was very disappointed that they were lying to us. But I always just loved history. And, so when these past lives come through, I want to research, I want to delve in, I want to explore it and find out what it was really like and remember those things. And I'm being guided to treat them like the stepping stones that they are, into remembering who you are as a soul, not as a pharaoh or as a Greek god or whatever it is. Those are just parts of you to remind you of the confidence that you have, of the power that you have, of the knowledge that you are not only completely safe and secure, but capable of all things, and so as these stepping stones come through, they will help remind you of that sensation inside self. It's a fun little hobby on the side if we don't join into it too much. Archangel Michael's message is that if we connect to it too much, then we are casting judgment. It doesn't have to be a positive or a negative judgment to say that it's a judgment. It's simply looking into it and trying to digest the information and stuff. And instead to acknowledge it without judgment and release it, to let it move through us, and we don't have to take on more titles through this process. We're being asked to remove the titles, to remove the facades, these layers, which are awesome, though they are just clothes. There's actually a person that is inside that is attempting to be revealed to us. That was.
Yeah, and also like regarding that, what I received yesterday is like all these past events and maybe past lifetimes are coming up to like say hello and goodbye, to like remind you like, okay, like this happened, like this is part of who you are, but that's like part of the old you, the old world, and you're like moving into a new phase now. So time to let it go, like time to let it be, and like move forward with clear slate. Like start a clean page. Like all those events and experiences had their effects on you, like you've learned, you have grown, but now it's time to leave them behind. Like don't dwell on them, just move forward into a new reality.
And when we do that, we're releasing these imprisoned energies that are keeping the density in place that wants to go too. Like that's another point to be made, is that a lot of people are having these experiences and are declaring them psychic attacks, because the energy of it is so profound and uncomfortable. The flashes of, say, a moment of death in a previous life and stuff. It's not asking you to be disturbed or even trying to cause disharmony. It's attempting to be seen, like you said, and so it can go. And I am called to send love to that. When it comes up, to send love to it, and it is seen. I don't have to spend time on it to have it be acknowledged. And just like the caged animal, when you open the door, there's going to be a moment of like, wait, am I really free? And so to know that it's a slower process, it takes like a couple of hours to a day or so before that can fully go on. Allow it to, and as it's moving through, again, to send love to it, it kind of propels it out and kind of guides it farther for it. So.
Yeah, like that. I think this is the main theme and activity that we're going through at this stage in our collective evolution. But like things from the old world and also our old lives are like coming up that are no longer compatible where we're going. They're coming up to be seen and to be released, basically. And also on that note, like I also wanted to venture into like how to navigate your expansion of your senses. And also with higher vibrations, we talked about setting boundaries last week. Like, would you like to reflect on like how can we filter our expanded perception of reality by actually like setting boundaries, like what you want to receive and what you don't want to receive in your life?
You know, the boundary theme is really important right now. Along with the age of consent comes declaring what is acceptable and what is not. When we accept an interaction, that isn't okay with us, we'll keep getting them, because the universe knows it's not in harmony with you. And it's time for us to say no. When we declare no, when we set that boundary, and when we say it's not okay, it feels, and it is very much like that movie, The Matrix, where Neo puts up his hand to the bullets and says no. It doesn't have to be rageful. Yeah. It doesn't have to be rageful and angry and like sounding homicidal, it's no. And I mean no, and the other part of no is to not accept that behavior any longer, and we don't have to engage. And in fact, when we're doing that, we're transmuting the energy present. These things that are coming up are in part right now. A lot of people are being asked again if they still want to do whatever it is mission that they're on. We all have our own mission. We do it automatically, and when we're in that place of joy. And so these things are coming up as part of that. Anything that is not okay with me does not need to happen. And so also I won't allow any of it to be in a physical way as well as energetic. And so when we do that, when we send out the love balls, what I do, breathing in the light of God, blowing out the air through my mouth, having breathed in through my nose, creating this bubble that when I blow out white light, it goes farther and farther out. That bubble, I can push it to people too. And when I do that, if you're not in the same harmony frequency that I'm in, you can't be in the same space. That's how it works out. And they flee. Lots of times though, there's a last minute lash out, like, rah, because they're mad. If they're still in that density, love is going to be very unpleasant. And same is true for all these energies. Sending out that love, if it is of love, it will answer back with a lot more love than you sent out. If it is not of love, it will flee. And it sounds a lot more simple than it feels like when you're first doing it. Be reassured. A little bit of practice goes a long way. I'm sorry, was that the question that you had? I got in a little bit of a sidetrack, yes. I think. Okay.
And like also on the note of like you sent first of setting your boundaries, of like verbalizing to yourself, or at least stating for yourself like what you want to experience and what you don't want to experience.
Yeah.
Like setting no, like setting the boundaries, and I'm not receiving that in my life anymore. And as you said, like you can send out that love to them, like they can receive it if they want to, or if not, they will be like, I wouldn't say like forced to leave, but it will be like an uncomfortable place for them to be, because they are not of that vibration. And I just noticed, like, like I always say that use the violet flame and like send it to other people. And I just noticed that you have a violet sweater on.
Yeah, and my earrings too.
And like work with the violet flame. It's an incredible energetic tool. And the more you work with it, like you can call in its transmutational force even during conversations or whatever types of activities you do during your day. And what it does best, the violet flame, is transmuting all density, fear, doubt, like all sickness, everything that is lower vibrational, and it's like transforming into something higher vibrational. And like anyone or anything that doesn't want to go through that process, like, will leave. Yeah.
Exactly. And Guardian has a couple of examples of violet flame meditations, as well as the trio. He has the green, the blue, and the violet flame light language on his YouTube channel that are really useful. And to add to that very quickly, that's partly why I tend to do this when I'm in meditation, is I'm hugging my flame spark, and when we do that, I find, and I do it with a void, like the shape of a flicker of a flame. When I do that, it's easier to muster it and create the flame that it wants to be, to engulf you. It takes a little bit of time to go through that process, but just practicing, you have that flick of flame inside you. That's your soul spark. That's your part of God that every one of us have.
You can't lose it. You can't get rid of it, and you can't lose it. It's who you are.
Exactly. And we are empowered, powerful beings of light that are made up of the very most purest love. And when we start to speak the language that we came here with, we came here to teach how to speak love. And coming to a foreign land where the language of the area is fear, we started to do what people do when they go on vacation to Mexico. They started to speak Spanish, right? We started to speak fear back. You hear angry words, which are fear, and we respond with fear, with fearful words and behavior. And now we're all realizing that we're here to teach how to speak love, not to speak the language of the locals, that they've been trapped. And as a result, coming into this place now, most of the people are aware of that and moving into it on their own. Actually, it's been fun to be witness to this. And as we move through into this next experience, this next couple of weeks and even month, we're going to notice more and more acceptance and open conversation. I'm annoyed by that, by the way. I understand it. It was supposed to be gradual, but I really wanted to hear like, OMG, this thing, and like it being all over the news and maybe even fireworks, but no, they're like, oh yeah, UFOs are real. Oh yeah, aliens are real. Like all of these, oh yeah, it turns out, crystals are real, and all the stuff that we talk about that have been considered insane thinking are just readily accepted by the masses without any conflict. I'm happy for them, but I'm annoyed.
Yeah. We've been talking about this stuff for ages.
I know. Many of us have been institutionalized for talking about this.
Yeah. Now it's widely accepted. So,
yeah.
Like, job well done on our part or something.
Right.
Okay.
So here we are. We're in this space and we're in this awakening, and it's going to feel shifty for a little bit is what I was trying to get at. I got on a tangent, and so it's going to feel, we're going to notice this kind of stuff. We don't ascend. I know we're over time. I hope you don't mind me adding this. As we ascend, we don't just move up like this. We do this. Like you're making your way up. And so notice, when you notice those dips, please don't be discouraged. You're on your path. You're on your way. You're doing great. And please don't give up. It's really easy to feel like you want to give up when the density starts to come in, but you're okay.
Yeah, like what I wanted to add to that whole dip thing, like if you're in a dip and if you're like very insightful, like when you're in a dip, you're not at the same level when you were last time in a dip. So you have upgraded one level. It's almost like you're doing these steps going upwards.
Exactly.
So whenever you feel low, and then you look back like 10 years, the state that you're in right now, when you're feeling very low, like it's the happiest day of your life 10 years ago, maybe.
Or even last year, or even last month. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for sharing that. That's important to know.
Yeah, like also please share your Zoom meetings that you hold. I think you have one tomorrow.
That's right. We hold a weekly Zoom meeting on Fridays. Some places it's Saturday, depending on where you are on the planet. It starts at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have a link posted in my YouTube channel in the community section right now.
And you can find Higher Vibrations YouTube channel. It's in the title of this video. There's a link to it.
Thank you. Yeah, and just, it's free. It's 3 hours long, so you can come later, leave early if you need. You're not required to have your camera on or your audio on. Some people just type in the chat part and I'll be the voice for them if they want to engage. And a lot of us have learned to be cautious about the information that we share. And now that we're moving through and past that space, we're learning how to use our throat chakras, and so you don't have to feel any kind of way about not turning on your audio. A lot of people don't at first. So thank you. It's free.
Yeah, like now you have the opportunity to join and like participate with like-minded people. We're not isolated as we were in the past. And now it's all up to you to connect with our star family or soul family, however we want to call it.
Right.
Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us in this live event. We just had a very intense full moon, and I hope to see everyone next week as well. Yeah, like if any of you have some great topic to recommend, then please do it in the comment section or write me somewhere. If anyone has some great inspiration on what we should talk about next time, then please do share it. And I hope to see everyone next time. Thank you, High Vibrations, for joining us.
Thank
And
you.
see everyone next week. Have a great weekend.